This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free, and it goes to Gibbs wide.
First time we've seen them attack them, and there's Brandon! Well, that's what I've wanted to see Robinson do. Tyler one, he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic!
Here's Bob Williams, and he's through here! And in the end, Forest will say it doesn't matter how you play as long as you win it!
Yeah! Forest are Premier League!
Hello and welcome back to Red Side of the Trent, here to discuss and catch up on the latest news and ongoings at Nottingham Forest, including our latest signing, Silva da Moreira, the PSR deadline and more. Going through all the details with me as ever is Lee Clark. How are you, mate? You right?
Yeah, good. All good. Ready to get stuck in?
Yeah, well, I just wanted, we left off last week a little chat with England, being as we're recording the day after they played Slovenia. I just thought may as well carry on that debacle. And I put on my Twitter that I've always been club over country and I never hide away from that fact. But I'm super glad that Morgan Gibbs quite never ended up going to that tournament. I'm quite glad he's had a full summer of rest. He's been touring Dubai or wherever he has been with his family, away from the horror show that is the Euros for England at the moment.
Yeah, he's playing a lot of golf, isn't he? Looking at his Instagram, I never really had Morgan Gibbs White down as a golfer, to be fair. But
no, he's more of a fashion person, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Play with Matty Cash.
Yeah, it was just a really poor performance again, wasn't it, from England? Lacking energy. Amazing what happens when you put two informed wingers on the pitch. Yeah, changes are plenty required for. I mean, we could probably do one of our hour-long podcasts talking about England and the problems, couldn't we? What I would say, however, is I don't think that at any point during that hour we'd say that Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane are the problem with England, which seems to be the trendy thing to say. So, yeah, but yeah, very drab, very boring. And I agree with you. I am club over country, but there is something that I quite find, I don't know, just quite nice about major tournaments. I do like major tournaments. I just think it typically brings the whole nation together. Certainly in the last few tournaments where we've actually done quite well. So I still want us to keep progressing if we can, but it's looking like a long shot at the moment.
I like the international tournaments. I just don't like seeing this football from such a talented group of players. And I'm adamant that Jude Bellingham is not a number 10. I mean, he's played there for Real Madrid, or whatever, all season, but I don't see it. I don't think he's intelligent enough for it. That's just my opinion. It's a whole different topic. We'll get back to Forest anyway. Let's start with something fairly positive in that sense. Forest have made their second signing. I think we might have either brushed over it or didn't really mention it before, but we signed Marko Starmanic, I think is how you say it, from Red Star Belgrade. He's been loaned out straight to Olympiacos, and as far as I know, that kind of deal actually makes us money, weirdly, because of the amortization of his contract. It's a 5-year deal. It's less than £1 million a year or something like that. 22-year-old New Zealander. He's gone straight to Olympiacos, so kind of skim over him. But the latest signing in Silva da Moreira, I think I'm saying that right. 18-year-old from St. Pauli, wing back or winger. German youth international, won the Euros, the World Cup with them. I think under 17s and under 18s or something, or in that ballpark anyway. He got the first team signing treatment, I'd say. Does that kind of indicate that he might have a part to play in the first team, Lee?
Yeah, it's a strange one, that. I think if he was going to be solely for the academy, I think the academy X account would have announced it instead. So yeah, I do think he might play a part. I think it'd be one of those where we look at him in pre-season. Again, similar to where, when you're playing Football Manager and it asks you to pick your squad for your pre-season tour, and there's an option that says include your star development players. I think it'll be similar to that. I think you can probably include, I'm sure we'll come on to him, Aguilera in that conversation as well. I think there'll be we keep hearing that Nuno wants a smaller squad, but I think if you're going to do that in the Prem, you've got to have a clutch of young academy talents waiting to jump in if there's gaps to fill in the squad. So I think there'll be a few like that. I mean, to be fair, I think Justin Hanks has signed today. There's loads of academy lads that have, you know, been offered new contracts and stuff. So yeah, I do think he'll get a chance.
You mentioned Justin Hanks. I think a fair few of us have signed new deals from the academy. I think Jack Naden is one who's been with the club for a while. I think it might be Ollie Hammond's brother who's signed. I can't remember his first name. It's completely left. It might be Ben Hammond. It's definitely another Hammond. There might be another brother. I haven't got a clue, but there's a fair few that have signed who've obviously been with the academy for a long time. But it's just you kind of never really hear about these names unless like they're doing super well, like in the FA Youth Cup or anything. That's our only problem when we've had with youth players, unless they go out on loan and do have a fair few cracks at the whip in League One and stuff. Like Aaron Donnelly had a fairly productive season last year at Port Vale, I think it was. So hopefully, like some of these lads get loan moves if they're not going to be involved within the first team, because under 23s is kind of like neither here nor there for me. But yeah, no, I think De Silva, Moreira, however we're gonna call him, Silva da Moreira, I ain't got a clue. There'll be a song in there somewhere. I think what I like about him is a bit versatile. So he'll probably play wing back or right back and forward. I think for St. Pauli's second team, he's been predominantly playing as like a winger or a striker. Same for Germany. So I think he's more of a forward player rather than a defensive player. But I think he adds to the versatility. But because he can play right back, I'm not sure if that's like us kind of covering ourselves for left back. I know that we've been linked with a fair few other players as well. I don't know what your thoughts on it as well.
Yeah, I mean, his versatility probably is another indication that he's probably going to be around the first team squad. I think if you're a youngster coming through the ranks, the more positions you can play in, the better, and the more likely you are to get an opportunity, I guess. I mean, that's where Aguilera is probably a tricky one, because as a natural number 10, he's not going to play that much, is he? Especially whilst we keep with Gibbs White. So, yeah, I think... I do think that Moreira will. I just don't see why he'd go to those lengths to do an actual interview with him and stick it straight out if he's not going to feature in some way during the Premier League campaign. But then on the flip side, he's played one senior game in his career, so I don't know. It's one of those. It's a decision for Nuno, I guess. I mean, let's face it, Brighton sign young lads, and within months they're in the first team playing week in, week out. So I mean, if it works for them, then why not for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Buonanotte and NC, so kind of good examples of that. Hinshelwood kind of got thrusted in last season because of injuries, so you just never know when you're going to get your opportunity, I guess, in some cases. But you touch on Aguilera, he's playing in the Copa America for Costa Rica, played against Brazil, got Neymar shirt. Alex Oates, friend of the pod, put out quite an interesting question of like, what Forest player do you think has got a really good shirt collection other than like Felipe, who's obviously just retired? Or left us, should I say? I don't know if he actually officially retired or not.
Yeah, I think he has.
I think I'd argue he's probably got the best one. Would you any shouts just off the top of your head? Good shirt collection
from our current players.
Yeah,
I don't know really. I suppose Hudson-Odoi maybe. He's played a lot of Premier League games, hasn't he?
Played in Germany. Played.
Old Chelsea, players, I'd say Dawson. Maybe Michael Dawson will probably have a decent collection, won't he?
Reid.
For England. Andy Reid. Genus, maybe.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But touching on Aguilera, I know we mentioned him being like maybe a more natural number 10, but surely we still need to keep him around potentially to... Like, I don't know, rotate with Gibbs White. I know we don't play European games or anything like that, but like you just never know with football. Like anything can happen.
Yeah, it is a tricky one. I think if he's going to play and get some minutes, I mean, the beauty of Gibbs White is that he's always, well, I don't want to tempt it, but touch wood, while he's been at Forest, he's always been fit. I remember him missing Brentford away last year through a little niggle, but he was back for the next game. So that's the issue you've got. I mean, Aguilera's probably got a skill set that suggests he can fill in other areas. He could probably play as a bit of a deeper lying midfielder. He could probably play on the wing, albeit it'd be a different approach because he doesn't strike me as the sort of person that's going to be hugging the touchline and taking players on. But I think he could still do a job there with the right coaching. But yeah, it's a tricky one because he's still not played loads of men's football, so you kind of don't want him to be sat on the bench all season doing absolutely nothing. I think certainly the next 18 months are going to be crucial for his development. And in that sense, he's got to be getting plenty of minutes. And I'm just not entirely sure that Nuno will give him pleny of minutes.
You're leaning more towards a loan then, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm just leaning more towards loan. I think, if he's doing well with Costa Rica, he did okay with Bristol Rovers. I just think there's certain championship clubs that we could probably look to lean on to and actually say to them, look, we want to send him to you because you play like this, and we'd like it if you had a position to fill and play him in his actual position. I think that would work better, but obviously lots of clubs don't really like getting loan players if they've got to be told how to play them, so to speak. So it's a difficult one. Yeah, it's tricky. I am still leaning towards a loan ever so slightly. I know we've said in our group chat, haven't we, between us, that he might get kept around. And if he does, I won't be bothered. I think he's got a nice profile. He looks neat and tidy as a player, but I just don't think it'd be productive for him to be sat doing absolutely nothing on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I think under 23s is kind of below him. Like, he's a full international. I know Costa Rica aren't like one of the giants of world football as such, but he's still playing against very good players. I mean, they got a really good draw against Brazil. 0-0 is phenomenal for a nation like Costa Rica. To be fair, you can't really put them down. They beat England a few years ago, didn't they? So, like they and
that's it. I mean, not to put like a down spin on the under 21s/B team that we've got, because obviously in the Premier League too, you are coming up against some talented youngsters. But I think when you're a full international and you're 20, you need to start proving that you're kind of physically enough to play men's football. And now, if we loan him out and he's not, we have a loan manager. I'm sure we have someone that literally just is paid to watch the players play when they're out on loan. If he thinks he's not going to be physical enough, then at 20, we should really be looking to get rid of him, shouldn't we? I know I've kind of jumped probably 18 months, 2 years down the line there, but like I say, 20 in terms of being a talented youngster, he's not that young anymore. And I think now he's played 12 games in League One, putting him back in a B team environment just wouldn't be, I don't know, it'd just be a backward step, I think.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think luckily with especially with like a more elite football, I'd say like the game's changed in like that suits the more technical players, the smaller players. But from what I've watched, Aguilera, he's actually quite aggressive anyway. So like he's obviously got that within him and in his like locker. So yeah, I'm inclined to probably like loan him for 6 months, see how he progresses, get him at a club like you say that are happy to have him, and if he ends up playing a slightly deeper role, I think that's actually quite good, because it means you can kind of see what strings to his bow he's got, because then you can go, well, actually he can play as the number 8 or whatever, and we might need that, or he could play as like inside right winger, a bit like Bernardo Silva does for City, because he's not exactly someone who's got lightning pace or anything. He's just a very clever footballer. So I think there's a lot of scope there for him. It's just like you say, find the right team. Moving on, the rumour mill's kind of like gone a bit quiet on certain players. I think like there was like murmurs of like Bradley Locker at Brest, Reece Nelson at Arsenal. That's kind of died down, and now we're getting closer and closer to the PSR deadline of the 30th, as we record. It's the 26th of June. So it's been reported. You actually told me to say this, so I'm glad I'm saying it now. Financial expert says we need to raise 20 to 25 million pounds to meet standards. The problem is and the big grey black cloud over our heads is selling Murillo probably. But like clubs are going to know we need the money, but we know what his value is and how important he is to us, so we don't want to lose out on that value. But what would you do if you're Ross Wilson or whoever has to handle that kind of department at the football club?
Well, it's a tricky one. I think just to kind of add some more context to that. So there's a very well-known football site out there. I won't name them. And what they do is they use very clicky headlines to basically suggest something's clickbait is probably a bit of a stretch because someone has technically said it. So they're not kind of clickbaiting as such. what's happened in this situation is they've done a podcast, much like this one, where they've had a financial expert on, and basically Forest need to raise 20 million. Now, what someone has then said is, could you see Forest, to this financial expert, could you see Forest selling Murillo for 25 million quid? Now, he's turned around and said, well, they might have to. And all of a sudden, you've got an article mocked up saying Forest might now sell Murillo for 25 million quid. We're not going to do, are we? Let's face it, we're not going to do that. I think Marinakis would rather take a 6-point deduction and keep Murillo than sell him for 25 million quid. That might sound absolutely ridiculous, but that we know what Marinakis is like and what he's capable of. So that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I mean, we're what, 5 days away now, aren't we? So I don't know. Is stuff happening underneath the surface? Probably. Does it feel like we're going to raise 20 million quid in the next 5 days, 4 days, whatever it is? It feels unlikely, but what I would say is these things can happen pretty quickly, can't they? So I guess we'll just have to see. It's going to be one of those frustrating things, isn't it? Because the club are going to be damned if they do and damned if they don't. And I'll probably need my tin out a little bit for saying that, because some people are of the opinion that you should always just bash the owner and how he chooses to run the club. I just think what I mean by that is he'd be damned if he dropped his pants and sold Murillo or Gibbs White or Hudson-Odoi on the cheap, but it kept us within the PSR threshold and we didn't have a points deduction. And he'll be damned if he decides to, you know what, stick 2 fingers up at PSR again, risk for between 4 and 6 points, and it throws us into relegation trouble. But we keep our better players. So, like I say, I don't. Sometimes I wonder why Marinakis is still the owner of this football club. Because I think if I got the abuse that he did, I'd just take my money and go somewhere else. To be fair, because they're capable of doing that, I guess. So yeah, I'm looking forward to another summer of certain people bashing the board constantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. I do admit it's tricky to kind of find a common ground of what I'd do personally. I think it would be nice to. The difficult situation we've got is that teams know that we're 20 million off this cycle, so they're not going to come in and say, "Oh, here's 60 million from Murillo." They'll probably test the water with 30 because they know that would, But then we're massively undervaluing one of our better players, so it's such a difficult situation.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
It's a huge lose-lose, isn't it?
Yeah,
really.
Absolutely.
The other caveat to that is I think if like clubs know that we need the money and everyone offers like 30 million or whatever, we could turn around and say, well, why should we accept 30 million off you compared to what everyone else is offering? So then surely you can almost start a bidding war in that sense. And it's kind of like whose bluff do you call almost? I don't know. It's an interesting one. And for all we know, this report of 20 million might be complete garbage. We don't actually know. Yeah. That's the worrying thing, because I think obviously the whole thing with Mangala going to Leon, and if that was made permanent, I don't know if that was accounted for or what. I'm still very, very much in the woods as such about the whole situation anyway. So
I think what I'd be looking to do as well is if say, for example, Liverpool, I'm just using Liverpool as an example because that's what the report that we're on about said. If they came in and said, we'll give you 30 million, I'd then be thinking, well, tell you what, we value him at 50. So we want a player who you were planning on selling for 20 to make up the difference. Now, again, this is just off the top of my head because it's rumours I've heard. Tyler Morton is linked with Red Bull Leipzig. He's 20. He's got bags of potential. If they throw him into the deal, all of a sudden, that becomes a more attractive proposition for us. We get a player. Yeah, he doesn't play in Murillo's position, but you'd like to think that with the 20 million or 30 million that we're going to get, we can go and get another centre-half. That then benefits us as a football club, and it benefits us as a football club who are fighting to stay within the PSR regulations. So that's what I'd be looking to do. I think clubs are well within the rights to lowball teams like us. It's just what happens in modern day football. And while there's these stupid PSR things in place in the current format, it'll keep happening. I mean, look how Everton, Villa and Newcastle and Chelsea are all going about it, swapping academy players for ridiculous money, let's face it. So, yeah, I think while it's in its current format, we've got to kind of try and do what's right for us, even if it does mean taking what's considered a lower offer for our player.
I know. I mean, I think the other day we've supposedly interested in a Villa academy player for 4 million. Bogard, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Meant to be actually quite a decent player, and it was like, well, who's bidding for one of ours? And you look through our like academy players. I mean, no offense to them or anything, but we've got no to shout about like some of these top clubs have got. They've all got top young players and young prospects, and I mean Chelsea have got them in abundance because they can just buy them from Brazil and just loaning them out. Like they've got the sort of loan farm, haven't they? So they can kind of do it, but I can't see that happening with us, unfortunately. As much as I'd love it to. I think it would be an interesting kind of deal if it was, say, like a Liverpool come in and we go, right, well, we would like a player in the deal. It's like a Kumas or Clark or one of the younger players who kind of come through towards the end of last season in the Carabao Cup and did pretty well for him. I think we'd have every right to do that, to then not include add-ons as such, because for me, Murillo goes at a premium plus add-ons for me. I don't know what you value him at as such. Say if PSR wasn't a thing, what would you value him at?
Murillo?
Yeah.
Easily 70 million.
Yeah.
Easily.
I mean,
season in the Prem, a team that's stayed up. You look at his stats, most dribbles for a centre-half by some distance in the Premier League.
He had the most take-ons for a centre-half as well.
He was like take-ons as well. in the team of the year for the under-21s in the top 5 European leagues. You look at some of the fodder that has raised 30 million, 40 million. No reason why we shouldn't. Brazilian. It would help us get closer to 70 million if he'd played for Brazil already, I suppose. But let's face it, he's going to do it at some point, isn't he? I've got no problems with putting that value on his head.
We asked it on Twitter, and it's quite a split in terms of like people saying, well, he's worth this much, and maybe he's worth actually taking the points deduction by actually refusing a low ball offer. Then you've got obviously the other half saying like, let's avoid PSR as much as possible because it's already a difficult thing to come with points deductions, and we was lucky last season with the teams below us.
I get those people who are saying that, but you just know they're going to be the people who are the first to moan when things go wrong on the pitch. So we lowball it. We end up with a much inferior player than Murillo. And then, why did we do that? They'd be the first to moan. They'd be the first to backtrack and say we shouldn't have done that. So you can see why. That's what I mean. You can see why the club, it's a difficult one for the club because they are massively in a lose-lose situation.
Yeah. I mean, they've only got themselves to blame because of all the spending in the first season. And we've defended them quite a lot because we was like, well, we needed to. But maybe like in hindsight, those who haven't even kicked a ball or barely did were a huge mistake. I mean, I thought Omar Richards got over his kind of troubles, and it was reported that he was going to go back to Olympiacos. Now they're saying they're not going to take that option on, and we're probably going to look at him in pre-season. But he did pick up a knock, I think, against Villa, or at least before the conference final, so we couldn't play. So we need like. I don't know. I haven't got a clue of what we should do. Personally, I'd rather keep him. That's because I'm selfish and I love him. So,
I'll give you my take, and I love Callum Hudson-Odoi, but I said to my mate yesterday because he was asking what the situation was, and I was kind of trying to tell him. He's a Sheffield Wednesday fan, so he didn't really understand the Premier League way of thinking things. And I said to him, the perfect one to sell would be Hudson-Odoi because of the massive profit we could make on him. If we sold him for 30 million. You'd be making 27 million profit. I mean, that would not only keep us within the PSR regulations, but it'd allow us to go out and spend a bit of money on getting the 4 or 5 quality players we need. So yeah, it's a tricky one, but I think that the interest in Hudson-Odoi has died down. And again, that's not a slight on Hudson-Odoi because it's just purely because of how cheap we got him for. That would be such a Brighton deal. If we could have done something pretty quickly with Tottenham, where we said, right, okay, you want him. It's going to be 30 million. I just think that would have been the one to kind of try and press ahead with.
Yeah, I think the other factor in that one was how much we'd owe Chelsea, and it depends if that. I don't know if that counts as us spending money for PSR as well, because that's like a sell-on clause or what. I haven't got a clue of all the T's and C's as you want to call it. But yeah, it's an interesting one. What's your gut feeling about it? Do you think we'll make it? And if not, how many points do you think we'll get deducted if we get any? It's a tricky. That's also a tricky one. Very vague.
Yeah, very tricky. My gut feeling is time is running out. I think we'd have heard something a little bit more concrete by now if it was going to happen. What the club's master plan is, I'm not entirely sure. I don't really know. I think in terms of if we get found guilty again, then it'll be more than 4 because it's a second offence. So yeah, who knows?
I think the only saving grace is for the last breach, if we'd accepted Atletico Madrid's offer before the deadline and it got completed afterwards, I think it sounded like we'd have been fine because we'd have had the intentions would have been there that we're trying to sell him.
There was a report last week as well that came out, wasn't there, that said that the club have been sending email chain to and fro to the powers that be and basically saying if we agree to it but sell him afterwards, you know, if it goes through and that sort of stuff after the date, will that still count? They seem quite confident that will be taken into consideration. So who knows? I mean, I still think make it up as they go along a little bit, to be fair.
If we have a fire sale of like all the fringe players and players that aren't going to be here, like Worrell with Brian and Bowler and Dennis, I don't know if we'll get up to the 20 million, but at least it will help. Do you know what I mean? I wish that's going to happen, but even they not really got any interest. I think Sheffield United have been interested in Worrell and they've not even got an ownership really. So that's just been so annoying. It's just so, I don't know, it's just annoying in a sense, but it is what it is. Just to finish off, we've got a friendly against Chesterfield in a couple of weeks. Are you excited about that? Return of the players to pre-season as well?
Well, I won't be there because I'm on the line at AFC Mansfield and Retford United that day. So
absolutely brilliant.
Being honest, would I rather be doing that or would I rather be at Forest Chesterfield? I've been to Chesterfield loads of times before. So yeah, I'd rather be out refereeing.
I'm going to be in London with the wife for the weekend, so I'm not going to be there either.
But what I would say is that's not me being pessimistic about us playing Chesterfield in a friendly. I've never been a big fan of friendlies. If it was up to me, I get why clubs like Chesterfield want to play Forest because 5,000 Forest fans are going to go there, spend money, put money into Chesterfield. I think they're a great idea in that sense. I'd rather all the friendlies were like that, to be fair. Maybe have one stellar one at home. But then the rest for me could be played behind closed doors. I think they're pointless. You very rarely see that much quality. You very rarely get that much of an indication how teams are going to play. I've just never really particularly got the fascination with going to friendlies, really.
You said it on the last pod we did about the contrast in the 11 that were playing in pre-season to the 11 that started and even the 11 that probably finished the season. So I guess in a sense, it would be nice to have some sort of continuity of squad from the start.
That would be nice.
Obviously, they are probably going to players that might have extended breaks, though I think only Matt Sells is the only one who's gone to the Euros. And then maybe a couple have gone to Copa America, if any, from Aguilera. Yeah. So unless people are going to the Olympics, I don't know if Danilo or Murillo have been called up to go to the Olympics. I don't think they have. Then I don't feel like there should be anyone absent from our team. One thing I did want to mention: have you seen the Corinthians coach or president or whoever he is basically banish Carlos Miguel until his transfers come through to us?
Yeah, there's a bit of I've seen this afternoon as well that Carlos Miguel's it back, hasn't he? Saying that his ankle was actually injured, and that he feels that Corinthians have now tarnished his reputation a little bit with how they've reacted.
Right.
So yeah, the bridge is well and truly burned there, isn't it?
Yeah. We also asked a question on Twitter about favourite home shirts because, well, lo and behold, Forest have not released theirs yet. They always leave it late and then try and, I don't know, build it up to some sort of absolute stars in their eyes kind of reveal. And then most of the time, in my opinion, the last 2 years, it's been a bit of a damp squib. Apart from maybe that third kit. But Christian said the 78 to 80 shirt was his favourite. You've put the 92-93. I've said the 10-11 with Victor Chandler. Reece, obviously, Labatt's 94-95. Why do you like that kit, Lee? The one with Shipston's Roy Keane on the front of that picture that we've got.
Do I like that
pads
kit?
Like cricket pads, aren't they? Blimey.
I know. That was when they used to have the bloody ankle support at the bottom as well, wasn't it?
I suppose Roy Keane needed cricket pads for how he tackled.
Yeah, why did I like that shirt? I think it was because it was the first one really from where I was kind of, I wouldn't even say, I was old enough to remember. I remember watching on the telly in the living room while my dad was at the game when Sheringham scored the first televised Premier League goal against Liverpool. Yeah, and my dad's got a picture of, basically it's Brian Clough picking me up. And then my dad's in the picture as well. And my dad's wearing that shirt. So that's kind of, yeah, it's just a bit of nostalgia in that sense, I suppose, with that shirt. And I'm a bit of a stickler for those little pinstripes. I think it just makes it a little bit unique. You know, like you've just said about the more recent ones, they've been kind of a bit underwhelming, haven't they? I think if we did something like that now, we'd lap it up because it's just got that little retro feel to it.
Yeah, I think kits are very much getting back in touch with like the people that are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s now. So hopefully we can kind of do that at some point. I mean, I like the Victor Chandler one because I don't know, I just think it's quite a smart kit. I don't know, just liked it. I think it was good in that shirt as well. I think we had some good times with Billy Davis as manager with the Victor Chandler there. So yeah, I think I like that. Most people liked a fair few different ones. I've seen someone put Capital One with Lee Martin in that kit. That's an absolute throwback. Wow. People liking the shirt with the skull with the badge in the centre. Not sure about how I feel about with the badge in the centre, but there's that. 888 with pinstripes under Fawaz. Shipston's again with more of a plain feel to it. Obviously, the shirt that you've liked, loads of people have got lots of love for that. One with Andy Cole in under the Capital One, blimey. Wow. Yeah, Labatt's got a lot of love. Pinnacle, yeah. Not many people like the recent kits, so that says it all, doesn't it? Really.
But it's like with going back to the England games, when you're in the pubs and you see the fan parks and that, not many people have actually got the New England strips on. They tend to go for the more retro ones, and I think, I don't know, the retro ones make you think about happier times, don't they? I'm not saying we didn't have any happy times last season, but there's probably kind of, I don't know, there's
an
probably
association in there.
Kits that you have an association with.
I think I know Reece and Christian like wearing shirts against teams that we've beaten them.
Yeah, I've heard them say that before, actually.
So,
yeah.
Nerds. I mean, I couldn't remember. I would have to look it up.
Yeah, I remember some, but I don't think I'd ever be that bothered about wearing it because we had a particularly good win or whatever.
Do you get excited about the kit reveal? Because I could not care less, I don't think.
Not really.
And then when it happens, I'm like, oh, what does it look like?
I just think I'm 36 now. The days of me it's like, I think there's an age-old argument now as well, isn't it? How old is too old to be walking around with a player's shirt on the back?
Like a player's name? Like,
for example, I had Lingard, and I purely got it because I was in the shop and they didn't have one in my size that was unprinted. And she said, oh, well, we've got this one. They've got Lingard on it. So I was like, okay, I'll have that one. But then I got it home and I put it on and I'm thinking, how old is too old to be walking around with? I mean, I was 35, 34 then. So I don't know. That's a bit too old, isn't it? To be walking around with your favourite player on your shirt? I don't know. That might just be me. Each to their own.
I think I'm with you. I think like...
But do I buzz over the new kit coming out? Not really. It's nice if it's nice. I think I always get... My grandma's got a thing about giving money for birthdays, so she likes to buy something. So I always ask her to get me one of the Forest shirts. So I know I'm going to get one for my birthday. It's just picking the favourite one. And then whether I get the other two depends on how nice they are. But the first season in the Prem, because we had the Prem badges on, I said I was going to get all three, even if they were minging. And I have to confess, I only really liked the third one. I mean, I've still got this one. The yellow one, I don't even wear it anymore. I think I got sun cream on it on my last holiday, actually, the yellow one. So it's one I've just kept now for gardening and stuff like that. So once I've got them, I like to keep them. But yeah, I wouldn't say I buzz about them coming out.
No, I mean, I like the bus seats one from the first season, but yeah, even though we were tragically bad in it most of the time. So yeah, I'm with you. I think 15 or 16 might be the cut-off point to have a player's name on the back of your shirt.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless unless there's something like you really like him. Like, I don't know. Have you seen Olarena's got a YouTube channel? I mean, he's just pure vibes, isn't he? I like him. I like, obviously, Gibbs White, Elanga, Hudson-Odoi, but I just never get their names on the back of my shirt.
Yeah,
never ever.
I think The only like if let's say like Brighton signed Mbappe, I'd get it then if people walked around. If they got a really stellar signing that they're never going to make again in their lifetime, just for keepsake, I'd get that then. So in 30 years, you can dig that out. Oh, what season was this from? Oh, it's when we completed that amazing signing. But yeah, I think I'm at the point now where I don't really buzz about buying any sort of clothes, to be honest. I'm just one of them sort of, I don't know, just, yeah, if you need a new shirt.
You've crossed the line, haven't you, where you don't care.
I have, yeah, that's it.
Good. That's how you should be anyway. Just your own happiness, Lee. Well,
I've got a question for you to finish off again, like last time.
Go on then.
Michail Antonio's been linked.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention him.
Thoughts?
Not for me. I think that ship sailed. We've already got like two kind of similar strikers in a sense. I think like Wood's bit more of a. He's got a bit more about him in terms of being smart. I think like he's got a good touch on him and he's clever with his movement. Awoniyi really relies on like being his awkwardness and pace and power, which is pretty much the same as Antonio in my opinion. Antonio might stay a bit more fitter, but I think Awoniyi's he's better in front of goal, weirdly, even though he's very unorthodox. So I think I'd more lean towards getting Che Adams than Antonio for me, which is a weird thing to say, but I just think we need a bit of a different profile striker if we're going to get another one to support the two that we've got. So yeah, not for me, though he does fill me with absolute joy and nostalgia from the season I watched him under Pearce and then under Dougie Freeman towards the end, where he was unplayable for that one season we had him.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think, just 30. He's 34. He earns 85 grand a week at West Ham. Yeah, he's not going to come cheap. I get that people are saying he's free. Yeah, he is, but no, not for me. I just think he's too. He scored 6 times last year. That's not a lot. I mean, you think of one, you scored 6, and he played probably half of the games that Antonio did. So
yeah, I think when you got like 8 or 9 goal involvements in like third of the season. So like we just need to keep him fit, and then we can happily rotate depending on who we play against. I think that's a good option to have for Nuno and co. But yeah, I think that will be about it today, Lee. I think we've kind of covered everything that's happening in the Forest world. I'm sure there'll be plenty to happen, especially in the next week or so when we find out what we've done in terms of selling players, selling Murillo, or if we've not sold Murillo. And then I don't know how fast we'll find out if we get a punishment or not. That's the only question as well. That's another quandary. We'll find out, I'm sure, all in due course, and kind of.
Yeah, because I think you'll get so long to submit your accounts after that 30th of June date, won't you? I suppose so. Don't know.
I'm sure we'll be slagging off whoever in due course. So
we better get Nick DeMarco on speed dial again, aren't we? I suppose.
Well, this is another thing, right? Just before I finish, I remember seeing this on Twitter, and obviously we had like a lot of thing of like Nick DeMarco is going to save us. Can I just at least say that we didn't get a banner like Man City did about their bloody lawyer who was going to save them. So I'm all for them getting the book thrown at them. Whether they will or not, I don't know. But
same, but I can't ever see it.
No, because it doesn't help the Premier League's agenda.
You know my view. They'll get a transfer ban because that's what happens to all the top 6 teams. They get a transfer ban, and then their star-studded squad, they have to actually use some star-studded academy players who are just as good as the first team.
That's what happened with Chelsea under Lampard, wasn't it? Like Abraham and Mount seemed to actually be quite good for him.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, all right. Well, we'll leave it there. Guys, if you enjoyed it, drop us a like, subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one. Come on, you Reds.